4 things people who live past 90 never do. Avoid these now. Have you ever looked at someone in their 90s, still smiling, still moving, still sharp, and wondered, what's their secret? I mean, really, how do some people seem to grow older with grace, while others seem to struggle with every step past 70? Is it just luck? Good genes? Or is there something they do, or maybe don't do, that makes all the difference? Well, here's the truth. Most people who live into their 90s with energy and vitality aren't superheroes. They're just like you and me. They've had their challenges, their losses, their aches and pains. But what sets them apart is how they live, and just as importantly, what they avoid. You see, a long, vibrant life isn't just about adding more habits. It's about letting go of the ones that quietly wear us down. So today, let's talk about 4 things people who live past 90 almost never do. And more importantly, let's talk about how you can start making small changes, right now, that just might help you feel stronger, healthier, and more alive no matter your age. Let's begin with something that sounds harmless at first: staying still for too long. It doesn't sound dangerous, right? In fact, for many of us, especially after 65, sitting down feels like a reward, a rest. And don't get me wrong, rest is important. But here's what most people don't realize. The human body is built to move even as we age. And when we stop moving, when we spend hours sitting in that same chair, watching the same shows, doing the same crossword at the table, we start to age faster. The most vibrant seniors, the ones who walk with purpose, who garden, who keep up with grandkids, who still sparkle in their 80s and 90s, they don't sit for long stretches without moving. They stretch, they walk, they bend, they reach. Even when they're watching TV, they'll get up every 30 minutes, pace during commercials, or do a little stretch while brushing their teeth. Now, I'm not saying you need to run marathons or lift heavy weights. I'm saying, move. Keep the blood flowing. Keep your joints limber. That might mean walking to the mailbox instead of waiting for someone else to get it, taking the stairs when it's safe, reaching up to tidy a shelf, dancing a little in your kitchen while your tea boils. Movement doesn't have to look like a workout. It just has to be consistent. Because once you stop moving, the body starts to forget how. Muscles weaken, balance falters, stiffness creeps in, and the risks go up. Falls, fractures, even digestive problems. Many of these start with one thing: too much stillness. So ask yourself honestly, how long do you sit during the day without moving? And what tiny moments could you turn into motion? Start there. You don't need a gym. You just need a little intention and a willingness to keep showing up for your body. Now, that brings us to another sneaky habit that the longest living people almost never fall into, and that's holding on to bitterness or resentment. I know, this one goes deep. It's easy to say, let it go. It's much harder when someone has hurt you, ignored you, or disappointed you again and again. But here's the reality: carrying emotional weight is just as exhausting, sometimes more so, than carrying physical weight. It tenses your shoulders. It disrupts your sleep. It keeps your mind cycling through the same painful loops. And over time, that stress wears down your immune system. It inflames your body. It clouds your thinking. People who live well into their 90s with peace in their eyes and ease in their bodies, they don't hold grudges. They don't replay old fights like a broken record. They've learned somewhere along the way that peace isn't about justice. It's about choosing freedom from the weight of the past. You might think forgiveness means saying what happened was okay. It doesn't. Forgiveness is about choosing to unhook yourself from the pain someone else caused, so you can breathe again, smile again, sleep better. Not for them, but for you. So, if there's someone you haven't spoken to in years, if there's a memory that still stings when you think about it, ask yourself gently, is this still helping me? If the answer is no, maybe it's time to release just a little bit of that pain. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you can begin. A simple breath, a softening of the shoulders, a moment where you say, I don't need to carry this anymore. That's a start. And over time, it creates space for laughter, for healing, for joy you didn't know you'd been missing. We often think of aging as physical, but so much of it begins in the mind and the heart. What we carry emotionally shows up in our bodies. You've probably seen it yourself. People who age overnight after a heartbreak, and others who seem to glow even after great loss because they've learned how to release and renew. Now that we've touched on the power of movement and the freedom of emotional release, we're beginning to see a pattern. Longevity isn't just about eating well or taking your medications. It's about how you live, how you feel in your day-to-day life. And when we remove the habits that quietly erode our health, we make room for the habits that lift us up. There's a lightness that returns, a clarity, a spark. You start to notice beauty again, in the sound of the birds, the way sunlight moves across the room, the comfort of your favorite sweater. That spark doesn't belong only to the young. It belongs to anyone who chooses to live with presence and purpose, no matter their age. When you start living with presence and purpose, it's amazing how much life begins to shift. You notice more. You breathe deeper. You feel lighter not just in your body but in your spirit. And that brings us to another thing the longest living, healthiest people almost never do. They don't dwell on the idea that it's too late. You've probably heard someone say it, or maybe even said it yourself, "I'm too old to change now," or "that ship has sailed." It sounds like just a comment, but that mindset can quietly rob you of the years you do still have ahead. Because the truth is, people who live into their 90s and beyond with energy and purpose don't limit themselves with age. They don't buy into the belief that growth stops at retirement or that passion fades after 70. Instead, they stay curious. They stay open. They try new things, not because they expect to become masters but because they enjoy the process. They might pick up painting, start gardening, learn how to use a smartphone, or even take a dance class they've never tried before. And you know what? That sense of curiosity and learning keeps their minds sharp. It builds confidence. It gives them something to look forward to every day. Now, you don't have to take up skydiving or start learning the violin, unless that excites you. But what about trying a new recipe? Reading a book from a genre you've never explored? Calling someone new for a chat? Even watching a documentary about a country you've never visited? All of that keeps your brain firing, your heart open, and your life full. Think about how often you've caught yourself saying, "I'm too old for that." What if you swapped that phrase for, "Why not give it a try?" That small shift in language changes the story you're telling yourself. And that story is powerful. Because when you believe it's too late, you stop reaching. You stop engaging. But when you believe there's still more ahead, you stay in motion. You stay alive in the truest sense of the word. People who live past 90 with joy and clarity often have that sparkle in their eyes. Not because they never faced hardship, but because they never stopped living. They didn't shrink their world as they got older. They expanded it. And that's something you can do too. One step, one new thought, one brave moment at a time. Now, let's talk about one more thing that people who live long, healthy lives tend to avoid, and this one might surprise you. They don't surround themselves with constant negativity. And I don't just mean toxic people, though that's part of it. I'm talking about the overall environment you live in, the energy you allow around you every day. Let's be honest, after 60, life gets quieter. Sometimes that quiet is peaceful. Other times it creates space for worry to sneak in. News channels blaring about disasters. Friends who only talk about aches, complaints, or what's wrong with the world. Replaying bad memories over and over. That energy builds up like heavy air, and over time, it weighs you down in ways you don't even notice. Now, people who thrive into their 90s, they protect their peace. They're intentional about what they let into their minds and their homes. They might still watch the news, but not all day long. They might listen to a friend vent, but they don't absorb the negativity. They change the subject. They steer toward hope. They find something to laugh about. They fill their space with music, beauty, light, and joy, not fear and frustration. That's not to say they're unrealistic. They've been through enough to know life can be hard. But they also know that dwelling in darkness doesn't change anything. So they choose light over and over again. And it shows in their resilience, in their conversations, in the calmness of their presence. So think about your environment. The people you talk to, the shows you watch, the thoughts you repeat to yourself. Are they lifting you up or dragging you down? Could you turn off the news for one evening and listen to your favorite music instead? Could you call someone who makes you laugh instead of someone who drains your energy? Could you step outside and feel the sun on your skin instead of worrying about tomorrow? These tiny choices matter. Not just emotionally but physically. Because stress, fear, and negativity affect your heart, your sleep, your immune system, even your digestion. But when you fill your space with calm, laughter, and a bit of beauty, you give your whole body permission to relax, to heal, and to thrive. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing not to marinate in everything that's not. It's about watering the parts of your life you want to grow, even if they're small right now. A new habit, a gentle boundary, a quiet walk, a hopeful thought. Those are the seeds of a long, joyful life. People who live past 90 and still smile easily, move freely, and speak with clarity, they didn't get there by accident. They made choices. Not perfect ones. Not dramatic ones. But consistent, meaningful ones. And most of those choices were about what they refused to accept. Too much sitting, too much resentment, too many limits, too much negativity. That kind of wisdom? It's not reserved for the few. It's available to anyone ready to live with a little more care, a little more intention, and a lot more hope. So now we've uncovered some of the quiet choices that help people live not just longer, but better. We've talked about the dangers of sitting still for too long, holding on to bitterness, thinking it's too late to grow, and being surrounded by constant negativity. And the thing that ties all of these together, the real secret, is that people who thrive into their 90s don't just avoid bad habits. They protect their joy. They guard their energy. They choose how they age. That's the difference. Aging isn't just a number on a calendar. It's a mindset. It's a rhythm. It's how you treat yourself on the quiet days when no one is watching. It's whether you fill your time with love or fear. Whether you move toward the light or let the weight of the world pull you into shadows. You have more power than you realize. And if you've been sitting there thinking, I've already made these mistakes. I've sat too long, held too many grudges, played it too safe, let too much darkness in. I want you to hear this clearly. You can start again. Right now. There's no rule that says you have to stay stuck in old patterns. You are never too old to change your path, rewrite your story, or claim the kind of life you want to live moving forward. Let's be honest, none of us can control the years we get. But we can control how we show up for the years we do have. You get to decide whether today is just another day, or the day you begin protecting your peace. Stretching instead of sitting. Reaching out instead of retreating. Smiling even if it's just at the sunshine outside your window. Because those small choices, they compound. Just like pennies in a jar. You might not see the change after one day, but give it a week, a month, a year, and suddenly you're standing taller, laughing more often, sleeping better. People start saying, you seem different, and you smile because you know, it didn't happen overnight. It happened one moment at a time. Let's take a second to pause and reflect. When you think about the oldest, healthiest people you've known, maybe a grandparent, a neighbor, someone from your church or community, what stood out to you most? It probably wasn't how many pills they took or how often they saw the doctor. It was their attitude, that quiet steadiness, that calm way they carried themselves. That twinkle in their eye when they told a story. The way they made you feel seen and heard. That kind of presence comes from living lightly. From not holding grudges. From learning to let go of what you can't control and pour your heart into what you can. These people had hard lives too. They had health scares, losses, disappointments. But they didn't let those things define them. They kept moving forward. That's what aging well really means. And if you're wondering what to do now, how to take this from a conversation to real action, start simple. Get up from your chair right now and stretch your arms above your head. Roll your shoulders. Take a deep breath and feel it all the way in your belly. That's your body waking up. That's life moving through you. Later today, pick up the phone and call someone who brings you peace. Not out of obligation, but because connection keeps your heart strong. And before bed tonight, think of one belief or burden you're ready to put down. Maybe something you've been carrying for years. You don't have to fix it right away, just acknowledge it. That's the beginning of release. And tomorrow? Wake up and remind yourself, today I choose to protect my joy. Say it out loud. Put it on a sticky note. Let it be your mantra. Because joy doesn't happen by accident, it happens by choice. And protecting it doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means choosing not to drown in what isn't. If you feel inspired right now, good. That's not just motivation. That's memory. A memory of who you really are beneath the fatigue, the aches, the worries. You are someone who can grow. You are someone who deserves peace. You are someone who still matters. Never forget that. You've lived through so much, more than most people will ever know. You've seen the world change again and again. And through it all, you're still here. Still breathing. Still capable of joy, laughter, love, and growth. What a gift that is. So don't waste it replaying old regrets. Don't sit in silence waiting for someone else to come along and change things. Don't let fear or habit hold your future hostage. You are wiser now, stronger in ways that truly matter. And you have so much to offer, not just to the world but to yourself. And if this message spoke to you, if it made something inside you sit up and listen, then I hope you'll leave a comment below. Share your story. Tell us about someone you've admired who aged with grace. Or share one habit you're ready to let go of. We're building something here, a place where age is celebrated, not feared. Where life doesn't end at 65, it gets richer, deeper, and more meaningful. If you found this helpful, give it a like. It tells the YouTube world that this kind of content matters. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe. This channel is here for you. For the late bloomers, the quiet warriors, the ones ready to make their best years the ones ahead. No matter where you're starting from, know this. The next chapter of your life is unwritten. And it's never too late to make it your favorite one yet. Here's to strong bodies, soft hearts, open minds, and lives lived fully all the way to 90 and beyond. You've got this.